Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today to hear a bit more about our new investment readiness bootcamp. Just very quickly, I'm Sutin and I head up Scale Up programs here at Virgin Startup. And for those of you who are here today, you've probably heard about our newest investment readiness bootcamp. So I'm here just to tell you a little bit about it, and then I'll have a guest joining us, one of our alumni from one of our investment readiness programs, to also be here to tell you more about her experience and let you ask her questions. For starters, for those of you who aren't familiar with Virgin Startup, we started in 2013 as a not-for-profit, started by Richard Bronson, who you may have heard as an entrepreneur, and he wanted to help other entrepreneurs like himself start up and thrive, which is what we've been doing since then. We do that mainly through Virgin Startup loans, which are 25,000 loans given by the British Business Bank, 6% fixed interest for businesses within their first 3 years, and also through the program side. So running programs to help entrepreneurs get investment ready or to help them grow. So Investment Ready Bootcamp is actually our latest program, wanting to help those of you who want to raise equity funding but don't have a lot of time to attend a 7 or 8 week program. With Investment Ready Bootcamp, we've taken our 7-8 week program, which includes a lot of one-to-ones, and condensed that down to 4 weeks. So there are not as much one-to-ones, but what we do give you is the core curriculum where we give you the knowledge of where can I find investors? What does a pitch deck need to look like, and what are the important points I need to get in there? How do you approach investors? And also a bit of the funding landscape. So what does that look like? What are the options are there besides investors? Is there alternative funding like debt? And also, when you do approach investors, we also teach you what they're looking for. So what are the things that investors want to hear from you to make your business attractive to them, for them to want to put their money into it? So those are all things we cover and work with you through the Investment Readiness Bootcamp. Ira, who will be joining us shortly, she was an alumni from our latest Investment Readiness program, Collective Impact, and she's actually been raising money. So you'll be able to ask her questions about the bootcamp and also hear about her experience fundraising and joining it. This is also something we do on the bootcamp itself, which is bring in other alumni and hear about kind of the current market conditions and what's worked for them while they fundraise. If you have any questions throughout, do feel free to share and put the questions in the chat, and we'll try and answer that for you as well as we go along. With the Investment Ready Bootcamp, we have basically a 3-day and a 4-day option. And the first 3 days, we will cover everything from how you find investors to what's the funding landscape look like and other funding options. We'll also cover what a pitch deck should look like. And then in day 2, we go into more detail on how you should approach investors. So investors are very busy people. How do you make sure you stand out and get their attention among the hundreds of decks that they receive all the time? And how do you approach them cold if you don't have an introduction? We also cover a bit about your financial modeling for planning for your business, because of course, investors will want to see what your business plan is and those numbers and the financial model of what you project to raise for the next 3 to 5 years in terms of revenues and funding that you'll need. The last day, we will also focus on pitching. So if you are ready to raise, you should take the 4-day camp, because that day we will go through pitching practice with you. Practice does actually make perfect in terms of pitching, and usually this happens naturally over the fundraise process of months. Fundraising can take you anywhere from 3 to 6 to 9 or 12 months. And what happens if you do it on your own is that often you're not very good at the beginning. You don't know what the investor wants to hear. And so you've wasted a lot of those early investors that you've spoken to because you haven't piqued their interest. But by doing the Investment Ready Bootcamp, we've already done that practice with you. We've already trained you so that you aren't burning those early investors you speak to, and you're already having a message on point. And so that 4th day is really useful to actually practice live your pitch. We'll have panel pitch judges. We'll also talk to you about kind of how to best pitch it and what investors are most interested in hearing and how to really guide that first investor meeting so that you can get a second meeting. Let me just double check for a minute to see if we've got Ira on and if we have any questions. Chat. So while we're waiting for any questions you guys can put in there, I can also give you a bit more information about what we've done in the past with other founders. So in the past, we've had founders such as Canopy, Storyboard, who have gone through our programs and they were able to fundraise and also do a crowdfunder within 5 weeks. That was on our longer 8-week program. But again, we've taken that 8-week program and condensed it down to the core basics for those of you who are really time poor and want to get through this quite quickly. What's involved is basically 4 days of boot camp, which is every day from 9:30 to about 4:30, covering all these topics. And then you'll probably have up to 2-3 hours of work potentially each day. We're running it Tuesday through Friday. So by the end of the week, you'll have practice your pitch on Friday and know and have kind of basic materials you need. But of course, one thing is you need to be ready to fully commit to those 4 days of program every morning from 9:30 to 4. But you will come out with it if you do that and do the work with your materials you need and ready to pitch straight up to investors. And that will shorten the timeline you need to go out to investors much faster. We often see founders spending lots of time putting together pitch decks, lots of time wasted going out with the wrong messages to investors and getting no responses at all. And this really helps shorten that time frame. With the bootcamp, we've got the 3-day option, which is $7.99 plus VAT, and the 4-day option, which is $9.99 plus VAT. So really, it's a great deal not to be missed. The next program will start, it's still open for application. So the next program starts November 5th through 7th. So it starts November 5th, and you can take the 3-day or the 4-day option. We also have a December option, again, in the first week of December. Let me actually just pull up the dates so I don't get them wrong. So the dates are November 7th through 10th, or if you want to do the December option, it's December 5th through December 8th. So you can sign up for either of those now. And if you check with us right now, we still have available the early bird discounts with code all caps early bird 25. So that's still available through this weekend if you sign up. Let's see. Any other questions? Yes, great question. So if you guys want to apply for the program, we will share the link in here below. But basically, you go to virginstartup.org and go to scale and then the investment ready bootcamp. We've got the application page right there. And then we will share it as well below in the chat. It's and again, that's virginstartup.org/investment-ready-bootcamp. You can sign up right there. That's it. And let me now invite Ira, one of our alumni founders from the program, to come in and talk about her experience. Hi, Ira.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. So just really quick, Ira is the founder of Asan Cup. She joined us on our 7-week investment ready program for collective impact. And Ira's been fundraising since. Ira, tell us a bit about kind of your founder journey so far with Asan Cup.
Yeah, so Asan is a social enterprise. Our mission is to eradicate period poverty and tampon waste. This is the Asan Cup. So it's a reusable menstrual cup. It took us a year to design. It went through a lot of kind of product testing and iteration because period cups in general are not very easy to use. And we were trying to make the easiest one out there. Asan actually means easy. in Hindi, Urdu, a bunch of different languages. And the main really cool thing about our venture is that for every Asan cup we sell, we actually donate one for free to a woman or girl in rural India who can't afford access to safe period care. So we are a for-profit venture, but with every sale, we're trying to have a really strong level of social impact. And that's also, I think, why we were very aligned with the Collective Impact Program at Virgin Startups.
Thanks, Ira. And can you tell us a bit, I guess, about your fundraising journey so far?
So the first 2 years of Asan were completely bootstrapped, which means when I started, I literally applied to like every single pitch competition I could to win grants, to fund the product development. I think especially because I'm a first-time entrepreneur. I was very focused on the problem of period poverty and period waste, but I didn't really know exactly what the solution was and what I wanted to do. So before kind of raising institutional funding or anything like that, I wanted to really nail the product and the product market fit. So I bootstrapped for 2 years, a mix of like pitch competitions and my own financing as well, and kind of very small scale, until I got to where I really felt like we had nailed the product. We had 30,000 users. We had enough feedback to know that we were on the right track. And then towards the end of last year, I then decided that, this is the time, if I want to scale, to seek external financing. And that's when I applied to the Collective Impact Program. And that was very much just to learn about fundraising, because I was very new to it, and to learn how it worked. And then using the resources from the program and the network as well, I'm now closing my seed fundraise, which is kind of 6 months to 8 months after finishing the program. So yeah, it worked out really well.
And I guess, what impact has the program had practically for you? What's it helped you with?
I think like two things I would say. One is obviously the actual content, because I was on the 6-week accelerator. So there was a lot of, actual content around how to make a pitch deck, how to do storytelling, all the different types of financing, and pitching. So I learned, it was like a real boot camp in terms of information. But then I think the second thing I got out of it, which has really lasted in the long term, is, I would say, community. And that's also why I wanted to join the Virgin Startups community, because I had lived away from the UK for some time, and I was just coming back, and I also, as a first-time entrepreneur, I needed to build a network of entrepreneurs and mentors and investors in the UK. And I feel like that's something Virgin Startups really gave me. Both in terms of mentors, obviously Sutin, who is amazing. And then they also give you a 6-month like one-to-one mentor. So my mentor, Suzanne, has really helped me with marketing, with sales. And then honestly, also, I would say the other founders who are in the Collective Impact community and in the wider kind of Virgin Startup network. Like, some of the founders from our program are now really good friends of mine. I message them all the time to troubleshoot different issues, meet up with them. We're literally going through all the same highs and lows. So for me, the community was definitely the most important aspect. And I think it's like lifelong, honestly.
That's a really great point, Ira, because the community is there going through the same journey with you, which you can always reach out to them. And I guess, what would be your advice to other founders right now about fundraising? And out there, the audience, feel free to put your questions in as well for Ira.
Yeah, having kind of gone through the fundraising process myself, I would say probably the most important thing is to really identify. Number one is, do you even need kind of external investment? But then once you get to the stage of knowing that you need it, I would say really identifying who the right kind of investors are for your business. Because, for example, I have a social impact business with one-for-one donations. If I were to go to a purely commercial VC or a tech VC or something like that, I would be wasting their time and they would be wasting my time, and it would definitely be a no. And I think the Virgin program and also the more conversations I had really helped me figure out who the right kind of investors would be for my business. So really try and identify who that is, I think, would be my one tip. And then another tip, which actually Sutin gave me, which I still use, is no matter how far you are in the fundraising journey, even if you have an amazing investor or you're like almost closing your round, keep filling the top of the funnel, which means keep having the active outreach to more investors, because you never know, someone might drop out, or it might be a great contact for a next round. So don't be complacent. Like, no matter how far you are in the journey, keep filling that top of the funnel and keep going with the outreach, because it's really going to be useful for you.
And I guess for a bit, just for the audience, so they know if they have questions, what types of investors have you gotten for this round?
So for me, it's been a mix of angels and family offices. But what they all have in common is a really strong commitment to social impact. And I wouldn't even say like social impact generally. I would say even more specifically to do with Asan's work. So, for example, we have a few angels who are really interested in social impact in India, which is where we do most of our donations. We have one amazing angel investor who only invests in reproductive health. So he's like a subject matter expert already on reproductive health. So not only is he attracted to Asan's work because of that, he also has a really good network of like partner organizations who we can work with. So I think really kind of figuring out like what are those niches that your business hits, whether it's sustainability or women and girls or the kind of problem you're solving for. And if you can go to investors or even ex-entrepreneurs from that specific area, I think they'll be much more likely to listen to your story and want to engage with it.
And do you think the journey would have been would have been easier or harder or without having gone through the program?
I think it would have honestly been a lot harder. And I say that in terms of like having actual ongoing like emotional and like just constant support from both you and the rest of like the collective impact cohort. I think just the fact that everybody is going through this together is the community makes such a huge difference. Like I was in conversations with one fund, and I was speaking to them about the terms, and within like 2 minutes I figured out that another one of the founders on our collective impact program had taken money from that fund. So all I had to do was give him a call, and then we could have like a very open conversation about how the process went for him, and then that made it so much easier for me. So the community aspect has been amazing. And then honestly, even last night, like I had some kind of issue with my round, and I immediately reached out to another founder, and it was from our program, and it wasn't that she had the same issue. It was just that it's a person to vent to, because even my family members don't really understand necessarily, right, like what it's like to go through this, but fellow founders who are in the same position really do. So I think it's also just that like emotional support has been amazing.
That's a really great point. And definitely something that we support, and why we do kind of the cohort based really is because you can best understand it from somebody who's doing it at the same time you are. And in terms of like a lot of the things that you've learned on the program, have you been able to use that, or has that been useful for you?
For sure. Even, I mean, yeah, putting aside the community, just the actual content of the program, I would say the main impact it's had is that it's completely changed the way I think about and talk about my business. So I just refining understanding where Asan fits in the overall landscape of social impact businesses, of other businesses in the period health space. And then also it's really helped me to improve my kind of storytelling abilities in terms of, why I chose to, do this, and why I'm the right founder. And honestly, having gone through the Virgin program, I think the Virgin Startups program, I think even though they do give you a lot of pitch deck preparation and advice, it's actually been less my pitch deck and more just my personal ability to talk about my work that has really, really improved, and just my communication skills to be able to convey what we're doing in a much more compelling way. I think that was a big takeaway. And it's also because you go through so much practice. Literally every single day, you have to do a 7-second intro over and over, and you get called out if it's too long or if you're not getting the right message across. So you really nail your elevator pitch. You have to, and then you also do a 5-minute demo day at the end. So you really learn like 1-minute pitch, 5-minute pitch, like the whole long thing. It's all aspects of like storytelling around your business that you just nail during the program.
And is that something you would have expected? I mean, it sounds, storytelling, fundraising. Is that something you would have expected would have mattered so much before you went into this process?
I honestly don't think so. I was very clueless. It was my first time fundraising. I think I had a very naive idea of, oh, I'll go on this program and I'll be introduced to some investors and then I'll get some money. And obviously that's not how fundraising works at all. It's not, a linear process. I think rather than, I think what the program really does is what it says in the kind of tagline. It gets you investment ready. Like it takes you to a place where then you can go out and raise money. And if you try to do that, for me, if I had tried to do that beforehand, I just wasn't ready in terms of thinking about my business, talking about my business, knowing who the right investors were. All of those things weren't in place.
Yeah, that's great. And that's definitely something I do say to our guys, that we don't give you fish, we teach you how to fish. Because what you need to do is do what Ira does. You're going to be the ones convincing them, speaking to them. And so even if we introduce you to investor, if you're not saying the right things, if you're not telling them what they want to hear about your business, about your plans, you're not going to convert it into an investment. I mean, people are giving you their money expecting a return.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Like it's obviously, Virgin Startups does have the connections, but as you say, those connections don't matter until you are perfectly ready, and they have to be the right connection.
Yeah, and even like connections we have, every business is different. So you're still going to need to raise money from other investors. And you still need to keep filling in the funnel. And this actually teach you, I think, the skills for not just this round, but all your rounds going forward. We've seen people hire other people for introductions, hire other people to try and fundraise for them. But that doesn't mean at the end of the day that they can do the whole process for you, because they introduce them to you and you still need to pitch your business and sell your business and then maintain that relationship and develop it over time.
Completely. And I also think the other thing I learned going through the program is that, firstly, having Virgin Startups on your pitch deck in the first place is a stamp of credibility. But also, what I didn't know is that the Virgin Startups team gives you a lot of support with PR. So even getting, press mentions, getting articles written about your startup in the media. And then that in turn really does help with investment, because if you get introduced to an investor, I think the first thing they would do is Google your name. And if there are 3 articles in like major newspapers about your work, automatically that's credibility. Or if you're on the collective impact program, automatically that's credibility. So that's another huge benefit that I got from the program, and I think I'm continuing to get.
Thanks. And like I said, another thing is, how did your story change really when you first started pitching, before the program and afterwards?
So the main change, I think, was I used to just literally put like some slides, and I think they were already decent slides, but I would just put some slides up in front of a person and immediately start talking through like the market and the financials. And I think what changed was I kind of almost put that to the side and really learned how to do the storytelling aspect. I think we even had a presentation and storytelling coach, Sudha, right, who was on our program, and she was awesome. And I think I mean, obviously my pitch deck did improve, but it's almost like I put my pitch deck to the side. I did some deep thinking about like, why am I doing this work? Why am I the right founder for this? How can I communicate that? And then I just started to talk, more kind of directly to investors about what we were doing, and then maybe send the pitch deck as a follow-up to show like, of course we have, all of the data and the market insights and all of the financials and the traction, like all of that is there. But instead of just putting it in front of you first, I'm going to make a kind of human connection and tell you why we're doing this. I think that was a big kind of before and after change.
That's great. And I'm really happy to see that you're about to close. I mean, the market conditions, some people are probably curious about the current market conditions. Have you found it more difficult?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, I mean, in general, I think valuations are kind of more realistic than they were a couple of years ago. But I also think that that's a good thing, right? Because you should be able to deliver on the valuation that you're getting for your business. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And then I also think things like market conditions definitely will impact, bigger funds and institutional investors. But if you are going to angels or family offices who have very specific interests and criteria, like reproductive health or like women and girls in India, which are like specific niches, I don't think interest about those things changes over time. It only grows. So I think I'm lucky that, the angels that I'm going to are still committed to all of those courses and are still, looking to partner with social impact businesses in those areas.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and that's kind of why we talk to you guys about approaching angels rather than VCs. Because if you're looking for VCs, I mean, you've spoken to VCs. What's been the issue with speaking to just VCs?
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly, VCs is obviously like a huge category in itself. It covers and this is something you learn, right? Like through the program, there's so many different types of funds, from small ones to big ones, EIS funds to other kinds of VCs. I think my main kind of learning is that VCs and funds are going to be a lot less adaptable because they will have very set criteria, not just in what sector to invest in, but also the term sheet. Like, what are the terms? This is a huge thing that, I think founders don't think about, is you can raise money, but then what are the terms at which you're raising that money? And I think for a VC, it's going to be extremely kind of limited because, of course, they're representing other investors who've given them money. And I think with angel investors, it's going to be kind of more flexible and adaptable to your specific circumstance, to your specific business, where you are in the journey, and many angels also have been entrepreneurs themselves in the past, which I think is incredible because they've literally been through that exact process that you've been through. So I also think the agreements can be a bit more founder friendly.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And I think one thing we talked to you guys about VCs is because they're very specific thesis on what they want to invest in. And they're also looking for high growth to be able to return money to the fund and their investors. So you find a lot of them looking for those unicorns and going unicorn hunting, which actually there's plenty of money out there to be made without being a unicorn. And this is also why we encourage you to spread that out and not just look at VCs.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think another thing I would just add to that is also, like, in your storytelling and in your pitch, to just be very realistic and honest about your expectations for your own business. So there's no point completely adapting what you're doing just to get investment, because you also have to be true to yourself as a founder. And I think, for example, when I pitched, one of the main things I said was, in this round, I'm looking to hit profitability and I'm looking to hit a certain scale, but also just being very upfront about your ambition and being realistic about it. Because if I had gone in saying like, oh, I want to be a unicorn and I want to launch in then like 20 new markets and all of this, that's not like true to what my ambitions are as a founder, but also it would then, attract the wrong kind of funders and then set me on the wrong path, I think. So just really figure out what you are comfortable with and what you think is the right kind of growth plan for yourself, and then be completely open. And if you're going to get rejected by certain funds or angel investors because that's not what they're looking for, that's honestly a good thing. It's really good because it needs to be a good match. And also, it's not just about them investing in you, it's about you picking the right partners to support you and like be on this journey with you. So it's not just about the money, it's really about the intention, the person giving it, the terms, how they can help you in the future. So honestly, I think the more honest and open and upfront you can be about your ambitions and your vision, the better.
And I love that because that is so true, but it's something people don't think about when they're raising money and they just want the money in the door. And like I say to you guys, it's like a marriage. You're stuck with this person for the next 7 to 10 years. You have to be able to work with them and hopefully like them.
Yeah, completely. Absolutely.
And I'm going to open the floor in case there are any questions now. We've got one from Bukola. Having gone through the program era and if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently, or how else would you better prepare for the program?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think one thing that I wasn't doing at all during the program was active outreach to investors, because I joined it a little bit too early and I just like I didn't even have my financial model completely ready. So I was kind of soaking in all of this knowledge from the program, but then I didn't really put it into practice for maybe another like 3 to 6 months, because I then took everything I learned and, tried to get my ducks in a row. And I didn't actually actively start talking to investors for maybe like another 6 months. So maybe it would be more helpful to time this program for when you are out there looking for funding, because you will immediately be able to like utilize that network. So for example, if a fund or an angel came to give a talk to us at Virgin Startups, it's not like I would go to them right after and be like, hey, by the way, I'm raising money. This is my valuation. This is how much I've raised so far. Can you make introductions? Because I wasn't even at that stage. So I kind of had to circle back 6 months later and be like, who did I meet at Virgin Startups who I can contact, And I think I like really started annoying Sutin 6 months after the program ended for introductions. And it's amazing because she responded. But if you can time the program for when you're actively raising, you will probably make better use of the network.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And even to be honest, even though you started reaching about 6 months afterwards, like it takes time for investors to watch you and develop a relationship anyway. So from the people that you reached out to, like, were they able to respond?
For sure they were. And I think, I mean, in terms of the Virgin Startups network, it was some were investors, but I think a lot of the people were also like mentors who kind of helped in specific areas. So I did reach out, I think I very cheekily went to the pitch day of the next collective impact cohort and like use that as a networking opportunity to reconnect with some of the mentors. But yeah, everybody has been super responsive and helpful for sure.
And it's actually totally fine because we're going to be doing more networking events, and we also have the monthly meetups. So all of those are great events to attend once you're part of the Virgin community. Even before then, to join like our monthly meetups that are free. Another question from Julie Gerland. Does the program help with the numbers, budgets?
It does. There's definitely there was a whole deep dive on financial modeling, and it does help. Again, I would really say use the cohort, because in your cohort, you're going to have some people who are like amazing at design and have the best pitch deck, but are terrible at finance. And then you're going to have some people who like love Excel and make amazing financial models. And everyone is going to be so happy to help each other out. So the sessions will help. And then also just posting in the WhatsApp group or the Slack community, I've made a budget or I've made a spreadsheet. I'm looking for someone to just like go through the numbers with me and see if they make sense. Definitely make use of the rest of the cohort.
Yeah, it's great thing to do is just you can actually exchange labor as well, or just lean on each other. Tom's asking, does the program offer support for HR, legal, or branding and design?
So Sutin, you might be in a better position to answer this, but definitely we had like a legal clinic, right? So we did have a whole day on term sheets and legal. Branding and design, I think we definitely had a lot on like communications with Tribe First, but I think it was maybe less aimed at like branding your company for like consumers. It was more about branding and communications targeted at investors, because this is an investment readiness program. So it's looking less at like marketing your products and services in general. It's looking more at marketing your like getting investment and getting your, for example, how to make like a really attractive one pager. And I think that this is something I got out of the program that I never had, like a really succinct 1-page summary of super nice visual, like nice to look at and to read, like a snapshot of everything about my business in 1 page is something that they help you design. And then Sutin, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, no, so Ira's basically hit the nail on the head. This program is focused on investment readiness. So it will be on your communications design products, like 1 pager in your deck for investors, not for customers. But of course, that's important because investors are really busy and they get hundreds of these decks every week. So you need to be succinct and cover all the points they want to see. And of course, visually appealing design helps, because if you can't design something that's visually appealing, how can they trust that you're going to design something appealing for customers as well to attract them? So it reflects on your business as well. And we will be doing kind of the legal workshop where we cover kind of term sheets and pitfalls when you're going through those negotiations, what you should look out for. Next question. Can your business partner join the program for the same price? So yes, it is signed up per person for this program. And yes, you can sign up for the same price. And in fact, both of you can use the early bird 30 code to get 25% off right now. So sorry, early bird 25, all in caps. Does the program include crowdfunding platforms? So yes, actually, we will be covering crowdfunding. We have seen, and we'll talk about kind of the tricks and things of crowdfunding. And we have had quite a few alumni do crowdfunding as well. I would definitely say crowdfunding is appropriate for those of you who have a community and have a great story and a product that you want to sell to consumers. It is also a great one for guys who have more sustainable impact driven, because there's a lot of interest in that as well. So all of that, again, revolves a bit about a story, which is how you kind of sell your business. Nicola, does the program offer or cover how to choose investors? And what do you need to consider when selecting between investors? So I definitely say we do cover that, and also what you need to consider, but definitely would be good to get your take on how that might have helped you, Vera.
Yeah, for sure. Also, just wanted to check if you can hear me, because someone's like pulled outside my window and there's like a lot of noise. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you okay.
Okay, awesome. So what do you need to consider selecting between investors and how to choose investors? I think the program definitely covers like the different types of investors, like angels, high net worths, funds, things like that. But one thing that I definitely learned when thinking about, finding investors is the closer you can start to like people who you already know and who already know your business, I think the more luck you're going to have. So for example, with my round, rather than reaching out completely fresh, to people I had never met, I found it worked a lot better to start with like my mentors who had been, mentoring Asan over the last 2 years. So people who had been involved in the journey of the business from the very start are, I think, the number one best people to go to, because they already know what you work like as a founder, and either they might be willing to back you as your first investor, or they would be give you very honest feedback on who they think the right fit is, and making introductions. So I think thinking about who you've been in touch with from the start of your journey and really using people who know you well as your first investors puts you in a much better position to say, okay, I've raised 1/3 of my round with people who already know me well. Now I'm looking. So if you approach someone new and you've already raised 1/3 of your round from your existing network, you'll be in a much better position, is something I would say.
Definitely. And I think just to add to that, like we do talk about this choosing sectors and choosing knowledge. And I think part of it also comes down to you as individual founder, again, when you're considering this marriage with an investor, what they can bring to your table, and also what the terms they offer you. So it will be almost natural selection that evolves as you go along. Like, what are the terms they're putting in front of you? Or if it's an angel, what terms like you go out to them with as standard, and then negotiate that as a process. And also, even if you have mentors and whatnot, I've heard people tell me stories that, they have people who know them, but they won't make the introduction until they see that the founder is ready. So meaning they've got their business, they've got their deck, they're telling the right story that will attract investors, because you're kind of burning that connection, right? If you make a bad first impression, and you're just losing that. So you also have to be at the right stage ready for that introduction.
Yeah, and definitely just to add to that, test out your story and your deck on a friendly audience like your mentors who you know really well, and get it perfect before you then use those materials on someone new who you don't know very well.
Yeah. I always say if you have a partner, you can always test them and they should be able to understand it. You have to get used to that, being able to explain it to everybody. Next question, Adam. So many questions. This is great. After the program, what stage are you currently at, and what are your future plans after closing your seed round?
Yeah, so we're closing our round literally as we speak. So in the next couple of days, which is very exciting. And I think for a bootstrap company, this is going to make a huge difference. Because, if we had taken financing from the start, we would kind of just be on a very like straight trajectory. But for us, it's literally going to make the difference from like our month-on-month growth is very sort of, it's literally like what you earn every month you put in the next month. That's how bootstrapping works, right? So it's very small scale. I think it's amazing because bootstrapping has also kind of, it teaches you how to be very thrifty and how to really like optimize your spending. So our whole team has that mindset, which is awesome. But now after this round, it's so exciting because we really have the resources to grow and to invest in all of those different things that we want to invest in. So new products, for example, developing some new products, marketing. We already know what marketing channels work well for us, but actually having the budget to back that to grow. And then definitely like hiring some new team members to really like specialize. For example, like Amazon sales is a big area where we, our product is really well on Amazon. So hiring someone to look after Amazon, a few different team members like that. So it's definitely like growth phase for us now, which is super exciting. But we're also like very focused on sustainable growth and profitability. So growing in a way that, is very kind of financially sustainable for the business. And if we don't need to raise another round because we're profitable and growing on our own, that would be awesome.
That's great. Sounds super exciting. And thank you so much for joining us here and sharing your story and your experience. Thank you guys all for joining. And I hope that's been helpful to give you kind of a taster of what it looks like to join the program and what a fundraising journey with a founder like you looks like. Thanks again, Ira.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Sutin. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.